Hey, I'm with my good buddy Dr. Russ Karkheck today, and he's going to show me the benefits of using a 40/40 grind. I've been struggling with that particular grind, and Russ is an expert at it. So we're here in his shop, and we're going to get to it now. So stay tuned. So Russ has a nice Laguna Revo 1836 lathe, and we're up in New York doing this today.
Gonna flatten this edge. Then we're gonna put in a recess,
Okay.
or a mortise if you like,
Yep.
so that we can turn this around, have it on a chuck. We start off between centers, but it's not as secure as when you have it on chuck. So we keep it between centers for as little time as possible, even though some people will turn a whole bowl start to finish between centers. This is the Stuart Batty method.
Right. Okay.
And it's so secure. Once you get that turned around, especially when you have the tailstock up, that unless there are flaws in the wood, and you have to check for that,
Yep.
it can't come off. Right now, it's pretty secure, but not as.
Yeah. So this piece of cherry is about 4.5 inches thick and 8 inches wide. So I'm looking forward to getting into this. A little tiny crack. We'll see what happens with that later.
I don't think that's going to be a problem.
Okay. Me neither.
Okay.
All right.
So the 40/40 gouge has 40-degree angle this way and a 40-degree angle this way. It has, the wings are straight. Now, with an Ellsworth or Irish grind, there's a bump here. But the 40/40 doesn't have that bump. It's designed to really do a great job of cutting side grain to expose end grain. And when you use it properly, and there's a learning curve. There's definitely a learning curve, which Bob will find out when he starts using it. You have to be very careful not to push into the wood. Once we start, you'll see that you just hold down with this. You pinch it, you hold down. That's the whole function of the left hand, is to hold it down, and everything else is done with the right hand. Except when we start off, we're going to hold the hand low, and we're going to flatten this.
Let's do a little facing cut.
Yeah. So that you're allowed to use your left hand. But once we get into rounding the bottom of the bowl, the left hand is only for weight.
Okay.
And that's the trick. If you push in, you're going to get bumping, and it's not going to work. And you'll see that too.
Bumping versus catching?
It doesn't catch.
No, it doesn't catch? Okay.
No, it mostly won't anyway. But what'll happen is you have side grain here. You have, trying to find the grain here. End grain here, side grain here. Side grain, yes, end grain here, side grain here. Side grain has give, end grain doesn't. So as this is going around, you've got essentially two, I don't know if you should call it two densities, but two different effects. So you have give here. When it comes to here, it'll bump back. And you can get this kind of action if you push in. So one of the things that Batty said was, he's English, right? And in this country, we have dirt roads, and sometimes if you drive over a dirt road, you'll come to a washboard area. If you keep driving over that washboard area, it doesn't smooth it out. It just makes it worse because your tires are bumping up and down, so they're excavating more. And it's the same way with the 40/40 gouge between side grain and end grain. How do you solve that? Well, in the case of the road, they use road graders to scrape the top off. Don't go into the bottom. They take the top off, they take a little bit more off the top, and eventually you get to where it's flat. And that's what you do with this gouge. If you've got bumps in there, you go back before and you undercut them and you take them out.
All right, so let's get into it.
Okay, here we go. Let me
Suit up.
face shield on.
He's got his nice power helmet on.
Yep. You have to see what speed we can turn at here. Check, you got clearance. Okay.
Ooh,
good.
Nicely balanced.
Yeah. Somebody mounted that well. His name is Bob. Okay, go until you get jiggle and then back off a little bit.
Wow, super sturdy lathe.
All right. Hold the handle low. And if you notice, you listen for the sound. When you hear bumping, it means it's not flat yet. When you hear a whoosh, like that, that's flat. This is not yet. And you can go back and forth in both directions.
So this is not bubble rubbing time.
No, no, this is just...
This is spacing time.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're just trying to get it equal on both sides so it spins faster and smoother.
Well, we're going to get ready to put our recess in. And you notice I was able to go back and forth on this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're going to mark out where we have to make the recess,
Right.
so that the jaws of the chuck will fit into that. Now, there are a couple of ways you can do it. You can measure it. You can use a compass, which is what Bob does, or you can use calipers. The thing about calipers, you have to be really, really careful, because you only touch this side, not this side. You touch this side, this is going to go flying, and blood will be spilled.
Yeah.
But you will see in a second, I'm probably going to get this wrong at first. And by noticing where the groove is to here, then you just move it so it matches, and that becomes your recess. So there are lots of ways that you can cut this recess. You can use a gouge and then work back. I'm going to use a bedan. It's not a true bedan, it's one I made myself. True bedan is trapezoidal in profile. This is just a piece of a bar stock that I sharpened. To do this, come back a little bit. You want it facing downhill a little bit, and you push in. So that will make the initial cut.
Yeah.
And then we'll put a dovetail in underneath there. You don't have to go too deep.
Okay.
Thanks to Carol Pastor, actually.
Yeah.
Carol was here. She had something similar. And I thought, I like that.
That's right. There's a big parting tool in it.
Yeah. So I'm going to undercut this a little bit to make the dovetail.
Okay, so now we're just going to dismount it and turn it around and put it onto the chuck now that we got that nice recess.
Yep. Just give that a little bit of a snap at the end. All right.
So, Russ, why do you like these Stuart Batty tools?
They're very well made, and I like this modular handle system. Very easy to change gouges.
Yeah.
When when it's time to sharpen, you're not swinging all
Right.
this stuff.
Right.
You're just swinging this.
That's a huge benefit because that's usually hitting into my lab coat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you buy your gouge from whomever. The bolster costs, I think, about $22 per, and you glue it in with epoxy. If you eventually wear it down to where you can't use it anymore, you hit this with a torch to soften the epoxy.
Okay.
You take it out, and you can reuse the bolster.
Oh, I thought that this came with it. It doesn't.
No.
Okay.
Well, if you buy a gouge from him, it'll come with a bolster.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Already
but you
packed.
buy the bolsters separately, in different widths.
For other brands, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this is his older handle system, carbon fiber, very, very nice. And I have several lengths of these.
Right.
Now he will sell them of different lengths, but you can screw one into the other.
Right.
So you can get by with maybe two or three handles, and you're done.
So it's super modular. Hold on a second. So, for instance, this is Russ's collection of tools, and he only really needs 2 or 3 handles, which is a huge cost savings. Plus, yeah, there's some more there. There's another handle, and a couple more there. And I really like that feature that you can take it out of the handle in order to do your sharpening.
Yeah.
Cool.
And it takes up less space.
Yeah, that too. Yeah.
Because I found there's something about wood turning gouges. You store them in a dark place. They reproduce. And pretty soon you have more gouges than you did before.
I got them all over the place. I bet I got about 50 or 60 of them.
Yeah.
And quite honestly, for bolt turning, I only need about 3.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, maybe back just a tad. I think with using a 40-40 gouge is you don't hold it like this as you do in most other turning. If you're using an Ellsworth gouge, you'll pivot, you use your body, and so on. With a 40-40, you pinch this, and the whole function of the left hand is to hold it down on the tool rest. You do not drive with the left hand. Everything's done with the right.
Okay.
And you keep your arms away from your body, so nothing's touching, which is going to seem weird to anybody who starts with a 40-40. What the heck? You don't have any security. You do. When you get in and the bevel is in there, then you just push.
Okay.
And the gouge will do the work.
All right, let's see the technique. All right, so we're just going to round this over, get it all nice and concentric so we can crank up the speed.
This is very securely held now.
Oh, yeah.
It's in the chuck and the tailstock.
Yep.
So unless you've got a flaw in the wood, you're good.
Well, a good rule of thumb, if you can use tailstock support, go ahead and use it.
Yep.
Especially going at speeds like this.
This is the angle of the cut. Let's see whether I get it right.
So you're almost totally closed.
Yeah. I'm going to open it up once I get in there.
Oh, that's the starting point. Oh, another improvement.
Did you see that tool bounce?
Yep.
The reason is bad technique, because I was pushing in with my thumb accidentally. When you're just holding down,
Oh man, I love the smell of cherry in the morning.
pushing in again. When you get a bounce, you have to go back to where it's not bouncing, pick up the cut, come on. I'm going to have to edit this out. There we go.
Now it's not bouncing because you've got the right angle. All right, you opened it up a little bit, right?
I did. Push in. Shit. You can't squeeze it.
Okay, so now we're just getting ready to do the bottom of the bowl.
Yep. What we're going to do is we're going to make some cuts to take off basically this wood.
Yeah, we're going to back
Cut,
off that
cut,
corner.
cut. All right.
Yep.
And after about 3 cuts, then we're going to turn this to 45 degrees.
Yep.
And we'll do a little bit more.
Yep.
Then we'll put a tenon in there.
Okay.
Okay, so let's see. Is this sharp? Yeah. I'm going to sharpen it. This is the direction that this gouge wants to cut, right here.
Right.
Can you see that?
Yep.
So if you point it here, it's going to want to go there. If you point it here, it's going to want to go in. So you want to get in. You get a touch. The point goes in. And then when that's in, you have a little bit of a bevel. That gives you support. And now you just follow on through. You're pinching. You're only holding down with that left hand. This does not do any steering. The right hand steers and pushes. That's the classic 40-40 push cut.
Okay, here we go. Bottom of the bowl.
I'm feeling for vibration here. Took 950. I think that's good enough. So, arms don't touch your body. Hand does not touch the tool rest. Position your feet so you can complete the cut. And here's the awkward part. You have to reach way over. Come on. Stay at an angle. Come on. There we go. Come back and get some more. No. Some bad technique here. That was giving me vibration.
Yeah.
But like I said, I'm not letting myself off the hook here. My technique was off by a little bit. So you got to get in there. When you've got the bevel inside, then you just barely glide the bevel. You're not pushing in. You're just holding it there, and you come across. So
for a second, we switched over to my gouge, this one, which Russ just tightened up for me. I wasn't quite at 40-40, even though my handle says 40-40, wasn't. And I just made that cut, and this is glass smooth right here. And that is the main benefit of using a 40 gouge. Okay, so I went ahead and made the tenon and then the foot using the same gouge. Now I'm going to just start removing some of the wood. This tool has to pretty much be at like a horizontal fashion parallel with the bed to work properly.
good cut. Don't touch your body. And you can tell when he's getting that cut right, because you're not going to hear tick, 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 tick. You're going to hear whoosh. and it's a thing of beauty. Go ahead.
Look at that surface finish. The cut quality on this is gorgeous. This is really nice. So a big difference that when I'm turning versus Russ's method here, I'm usually got my heel of the hand on the tool rest for support, and also I've got my right hand on my hip. This technique, you're holding it down on the tool rest, and the tool is almost 45, not touching your hip for that extra stability. And the cut quality speaks for itself. I don't get this good a cut quality with my technique. Okay, we just missed a little bit. We were a little bit rough territory here, so we swapped down to a smaller gouge. This is the same 40-40 grind, just a smaller tool. This is where that split is.
And if you listen, you're going to hear a difference in the cut. This is a harder gouge to learn to use, but it's worth it. When Bob got it right, like he's doing right now, you hear whoosh. And when he doesn't, you'll hear bumper to bump. Nice cut. Nice adjustment, Bob. Yeah, you were getting a smooth cut, and when it started to bump, you subtly readjusted your grip,
Yep.
and that gave you that nice smooth whooshing cut we were talking about.
You have a box of Kleenex down here? It's 40 seconds. Go. So we finished this with a Glenn Lucas negative rake scraper. Oops. And to one more pass with that.
So the negative rake is held flat on the tool rest with a handle parallel to the floor. And you take a very light cut. That negative rake scraper has to have a bevel on it. You grind the bevel on it, and it lasts about 20 seconds, and you have to grind it again.
So with that, we're getting the contour that we're looking for, plus the finish that we're looking for. So we're going to just off camera clean this up over here, and then we'll be back to you when we turn the top of the bowl. So we've got the dovetail cleaned up for the tenon, and we have a little foot right there. Go.
Okay, so there are different techniques for hollowing a bowl. You'll see a lot of people starting out here and going in. And it works for them, but it's harder work because grain's running this way. When you're here, you've got side grain. When you're here, you've got end grain. And we talked about this before, how the gouge reacts differently to side grain and end grain. Side grain will compress, end grain won't. So you'll see people getting beaten up like this. However, if you go straight in from here, this is all side grain. So you won't get that. Now, somebody who's really good with this will start out here. You're allowed to use your left hand this time, by the way, and pivot in.
That's what I do.
Yeah, and you watch Stuart Batty do that. He does it flawlessly. He talks about put your thumb here, and you'll see him do that too, to prevent a skate. And then once it's in, then go in. And for the most part, you want to go pretty much straight in until you get over to here where there's a curve. And one of the great advantages to this technique, as far as I'm concerned, is as you get over here, now you're going to have to swing a little bit. Your left eye is going to see this. Your right eye is going to see what you're doing here. And you will actually automatically pretty much duplicate this curve.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? You know, because you're seeing it and you have to go in like that.
Yeah.
Now,
right, so dig in there.
Because I'm not as good, I'm going to have to put my...
Are you trying to make a facing cut?
No, what I'm doing is I'm giving myself the opportunity to have bevel support. So when I go in here, it's not going to skate. I'm getting a lot of vibration because I'm going into side grain a little bit here.
What Russ was doing, he was using the entire blade to the entire right wing. And so he's getting a little bit of bounce. The way that I do it is start at the tip and only use 1/8 of an inch. Take an 1/8 inch cut. Take more smaller cuts to prevent all that bounce. Start with a straight arm. It's kind of like rowing a boat now. And when you're finishing, you're raising the handle and aiming towards the center to get the nubbin. I'm going to switch to my tool. We have not yet used the right wing on my tool here. So usually the way that I talk about it, if you're having trouble getting a cut, first thing you want to do is sharpen the tool and or take a lighter cut or speed up the lathe. But ideally you want a really sharp blade. So if you're struggling, sharpen up is the first line of attack. One thing that I really don't like is when people start at the center and climb your way up. I think if you're coming up this way, you're much more apt to get a catch.
You are.
Right? So you start on the outside, work your way in. Light cuts. We were just talking about putting some stair steps in here in order to give you some bevel support. Otherwise, your tool wants to skate across like this.
And I like leaving ridges at the bottom But then in subsequent cuts, you start with those ridges giving you bevel support.
That's right. Exactly right. Now in this particular ball, we didn't drill out the center. I typically like to drill out the center so we're not fighting that nubbin all the way down. There's the dreaded nubbin.
The difference in the way I do it is that, you know, before I get any deeper than there, I would be out to my final thickness here. And the reason for that is because especially if you have a green piece of wood, that thing's going to want to warp quickly. And if it started to warp and you haven't gotten out here, now you got a problem. Because it's not going to be concentric. So
you're going to make the hole a little wider right now.
I am. Right here. You're right, those shavings are hot.
I'll use the golf club sometimes.
Bob is doing the final hollowing of the side. And what you'll have left after that is dealing with the bottom of the bowl. You're on.
Yep.
Yep. You see that kickback?
This is the bottom of the bowl gouge technique.
Okay, that's one. There's the kick. Hand flat on the tool.
What's that?
Your hand should be flat on the tool, and you don't steer with the left hand. Here comes the kick. So Bob's going to finish it off with a negative rake scraper. In order to cut, that negative rake has to have a burr on it, and you go very gently. One of the nice things about the negative rake is, you know how everybody hates that little nub on the bottom? You can come in underneath it and just raise the tip of the scraper up, and it'll take it off.
Yeah, we'll demonstrate that.
But you have to do it very gently so you're not digging another hole in it.
Like that.
Yep.
Good. So that's going to be it for this video. I'm an hour and a half away from home over at Russ's house, and I got to get home. But this was a really good exercise in using the 40-40 bowl gouge. So I'm going to take this home and finish doing the sanding. So thanks a lot, Russ. That was a really good couple hours that we spent. Really enjoyed that.
It was fun.
Yeah?
Good being with a buddy.
It's always good hanging out with your wood turning buddies. All right, till next time. See you on another episode of Bob's Woodshop.